All right, class. Welcome to today's explainer. We are jumping right in to demystify one of the absolute most fundamental rules of the universe, simple harmonic motion. This is, hands down, one of the most essential topics in mechanics. You can think of it as the secret mathematical rhythm that governs how natural and engineered systems move whenever they get pushed or pulled out of their resting state.
So, think about this for a second. What on earth do everyday items like a child's swing, the vibrating strings of an acoustic guitar, and massive towering structures like modern skyscrapers actually have in common? I mean, they look completely different, right? But the true beauty of physics is finding those hidden threads that connect everything. Under the right conditions, all of these things vibrate or oscillate, following the exact same predictable mathematical pattern. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
Okay, here's our game plan for today. We'll start with a quick welcome to physics class, move into the anatomy of an oscillation, crunch the math behind the motion, review some common student mistakes, and finally look at SHM in the real world.
Welcome to physics class. Let's just lay down the foundation of what we're actually observing when things just move back and forth.
Now, a crucial distinction you've got to understand right off the bat is that while all simple harmonic motion repeats, just like periodic motion, not every repetitive motion gets into the VIP club of simple harmonic motion. Take a planet orbiting the sun or a car driving in circles on a racetrack. Those are periodic, meaning the motion repeats after equal intervals of time, but they are absolutely not simple harmonic motion. For oscillation to graduate to simple harmonic status, it has to follow a very specific, strict mathematical relationship involving the force that pulls it back to the center. To actually qualify as SH, a moving object must be pulled back to its resting position by a force that gets stronger the further it's pulled away. Kind of like stretching a thick rubber band. We call that resting spot the equilibrium position. It's basically the object's home. When you pull the object away from home, which we call its displacement, a restoring force kicks in. Pull it just a little bit, and the force pulling back is pretty gentle. But pull it far away, that restoring force becomes massive. And it always points in the exact opposite direction of where you pulled it, desperately trying to get the object back to equilibrium.
All right, moving right along to Section 2, the anatomy of an oscillation. To speak like a physicist, we need to make sure we're using the right vocabulary. If you're taking notes, you'll definitely want to jot these key terms down. You especially need to know the difference between how far an object travels, which is amplitude, and how fast it repeats that journey, which is frequency. Displacement is simply the distance and direction from the center. Amplitude is the absolute maximum displacement, literally the furthest the object ever gets from home base. Then we have time period, measured in seconds, which is how long it takes to complete one full back-and-forth cycle. And finally, frequency. Measured in hertz, frequency just tells us how many of those full cycles happen in one single second.
Let's break down the 4 stages of a single oscillation. It's fascinating watching an object overshoot its resting point just because of inertia before being yanked right back again. Picture a block on a spring. First, you pull it to maximum positive displacement and let go. The restoring force pulls it to the center, right back to equilibrium. But because the block has mass and is moving pretty fast, inertia carries it right past the center, compressing the spring until it reaches maximum negative displacement on the exact opposite side. The spring then shoves it back to the center again. That entire round trip, that is exactly one oscillation.
Okay, time to open our textbooks for Section 3, the math behind the motion. We're going to look at the actual engine driving this phenomenon. And don't worry, the math here is beautifully elegant.
What's really interesting about Robert Hooke's famous equation is that the negative sign isn't just a minus. It's literally a compass, constantly pointing the object back home. Hooke's law states that force equals negative k times x. F is the restoring force, x is the displacement, and k is just the spring constant, which basically tells us how stiff the spring is. But that negative sign? It's the star of the show. It mathematically guarantees that if displacement is to the right, a positive x, the force has to be negative, pulling it to the left. It perfectly captures nature's constant desire to restore balance.
Now, what happens when Isaac Newton's laws crash Robert Hooke's party? We suddenly have the power to predict an object's acceleration based entirely on its mass and how far it has traveled from the center. Newton told us force equals mass times acceleration. Hooke told us force equals negative k times x. If we set them equal to each other, we discover that acceleration is equal to negative k over m times x. This is massive. It proves that acceleration is directly proportional to displacement. The further away the object is from the center, the more violently it accelerates back toward it.
This is essentially your ultimate physics cheat sheet. Mathematically, velocity is absolutely zero at the edges, but highest right in the middle where acceleration is zero. Think about it. At the extreme edges, the object literally has to stop for a fraction of a second to turn around, so velocity is zero, and all its energy is stored up as potential energy. But at that exact moment, the restoring force is pulling its hardest, so acceleration is at its absolute peak. Conversely, as it whips through the center equilibrium point, the force temporarily drops to zero, so acceleration drops to zero, but the object is moving at its absolute fastest maximum velocity, pure kinetic energy. It is this constant, perfect exchange of energy. Pay very close attention here as we enter Section 4, Common Student Mistakes. I want to make sure you avoid the classic pitfalls that trip up beginners on tests every single time.
I need you to put a giant star next to this one. For an ideal spring mass system, pulling a spring back twice as far will change its speed, sure, but it absolutely will not change the time it takes to complete one cycle. This is by far the most common misconception. Students intuitively think, well, if you pull a swing back much farther, it has a longer distance to travel, so it must take more time to swing back and forth, right? Wrong. Remember our math? A larger amplitude creates a proportionately larger restoring force, which means greater acceleration and higher speeds. The increased speed perfectly cancels out the extra distance. In ideal simple harmonic motion, the time period depends only on the mass and the stiffness of the spring. It completely ignores the amplitude.
Finally, let's step out of the classroom for Section 5, SHM in the real world. Let's look at how this very simple rule set governs the entire world around us.
From civil engineers designing skyscrapers that gracefully dance rather than break during earthquakes, to doctors using ultrasound, mastering SHM is the master key to unlocking modern engineering. When your car hits a speed bump, the suspension compresses and springs push the car upward. Well, shock absorbers are designed using SHM principles to damp those unwanted oscillations quickly so you don't keep bouncing down the highway. Civil engineers use the exact same formulas to calculate the natural frequencies of massive skyscrapers, installing tuned mass dampers so the building oscillates safely during a seismic event instead of snapping in half. Even electrical circuits like radio transmitters use equations perfectly mirroring simple harmonic motion to generate signals.
What starts with a child on a playground swing eventually scales all the way up to Fourier analysis, proving that almost all complex vibrations are really just combinations of this one simple motion. If you pluck a guitar string, it vibrates in a way that closely resembles SHM, generating sound waves. But real, natural sounds are messy and complex. Enter Joseph Fourier, who gave us basically the ultimate cheat code. He proved that no matter how chaotic a repetitive wave looks, you can mathematically break it apart into a series of pure, perfect, simple harmonic waves stacked on top of each other. Actually, that is exactly how your smartphone compresses image and audio files today.
So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want you to look around and ask yourself, what else in your everyday life is secretly vibrating to this exact same rhythm? From the tiny quartz crystal ticking inside a wristwatch to the very molecules vibrating inside the screen you are looking at right now, simple harmonic motion is quite literally the fundamental heartbeat of the physical world. All right, class dismissed, and keep exploring.